Hello, my name is Sam Robinson, and I am the Gnostic syncretist. Tonight, I would like to talk about how I see these negative entities called the Archons, how I see their plan for us unfolding, how it works, and how they gained access to certain psychological inception points in our consciousness of ideas about reality, and how they use these ideas to cause us to stray from natural symbiotic patterns of existence that are benign, harmonious, and allow for actual progress to be manifested for our species in our world. So, as I've talked about before, these Archons were accidental creations of the Aeon Sophia. But more to the point, they are akin to interdimensional frequency parasites. They are energy parasites that are not necessarily on our wavelength, so we can't see them. And according to some, they're not even here within the biosphere, but are only able to attack us through our minds. And one of the best ways they've done this is through forms of inception, where they plant ideas, deviant ideas, that are no benefit to us as a species and for our spiritual evolution, if you will. And I've talked about one of these ideas being the Abrahamic religions and the Redeemer complex. The world being made by only a male deity, then creating a chosen people, the plan failing and thus needing a Messiah, and then the plan still failing and having an Armageddon at the end. That's one inception, and that's a pretty major one. But there are two others that I want to get into tonight. One of them is not exactly a general, or one is general and one is more specific ideas. The more general idea refers to our very current time period, contemporary times, with our technologies that we have access to now, and the way we live and exist in the 21st century as consumers. Most people don't hear that term and think of it as being anything negative. Well, if you think about it, what is consumption? What is consuming something? That's using it up. It's using it up entirely. It's not supposed to be a positive term. Yet we're called consumers. Like, as if that's okay to be a consumer. Well, when you consume something, and you consume it long enough, it's destroyed. So that idea is negative in and of itself. But let's go a little deeper here. As far as I've been able to gather in my research, the Archons are masters of mimicry. They like to take something in existence, because they can't create anything, and invert it and make it synthetic. And then feed that idea into the human mind for manifestation. That then leads us astray. Well, let's take a look at modern 21st century society. Is there anyone out there that may see different levels of synthetic concepts riddled throughout our daily discourse and social interactions and food consumptions, as well as medical industry consumption, everything really, in some way has been affected by the universal synthetic ideas that I think have been systematically pushed by these Archons through the elite that engage with them. I mean, yeah, engage with them. And what I mean is, when you think of the 21st century and you don't really look too deeply at it all, you might think it's a pretty great place to live, or a great time period. Wonderful ways to communicate. Everyone's so connected, everyone says. We have access to so many different options and good food, they say. It's the best time to live, they say. We live supposedly longer than ever. I'm not totally convinced of that, but what we have here, though, is just a sugar-coated topping of a much darker agenda taking place, where everything has become synthetic, in the sense that it's only a simulacrum of what's actually was formerly real ways of interaction and existence. So instead of us actually farming all of our own food, or some of it, and trading, we have mass-produced garbage food that we consume on a regular basis that's energy deficient and depleted, has barely any nutritional value at all, and the energetic reciprocity process, or in which the killing of the animal, the raising of the animal, the eating of the animal, is on a natural wavelength and cycle. It's not, industrialized. You have a personal relationship or interactions with the actual animal that you consume, thus creating energy equilibrium, energy-rich proteins and food products from the process after you kill the animal and consume it, and then giving thanks to the animal, acknowledging that its existence aided your existence, as opposed to turning a blind eye and consuming on a massive scale without giving any sort of acknowledgement to what these animals went through and that they actually have their own legitimate existence in and of itself. So we're consuming synthetic foods. We are also engaging in massive forms of synthetic communication. Everyone says we're more connected than ever, right? Well, we're not. And if you look at the studies, more people feel more disconnected at ever-increasing rates than at any other time in history. How could this possibly be if we're more connected than ever through Facebook, Twitter, social media, the internet? Well, that's because that is an archontic form of interaction. Even what I'm doing right now, in a way, is an archontic form of interaction. You're not in my actual physical proximity, thus there is no energy exchange between the two people. So when you speak through a device, or when you text someone, or when you communicate ideas through Twitter or Facebook, there's no energy exchange. There's not an actual connection really being established between two people that's based in real understanding and emotion. You've got to really be around people to truly interact with them. Everything else is pseudo-interaction, in my opinion, and archontically designed to be that way, because it's not really connecting. You're not connecting on an energy level, because we are beings that have auras around us, and when our auras are in proximity with each other, there's a resonance, or there's a dissonance, but there's at least those. A dissonance in proximity is better than complete neutralization through a screen, where there's neither dissonance nor resonance. There's nothing. It's just computer-like interaction. You also have archontic lifestyles being pushed on Facebook. I mean, how many people do you know on Facebook that present a completely false life to the public, while the real life is not at all like the pictures and things that they post about? That's the rosy-colored glasses of their life, when the real life isn't looking anything like that at all. And everyone is now living in a pseudo-lifestyle, not everyone, but the people that engage in these behaviors, where that isn't really who they are. They're putting up a facade, and they're pretending to be something that they're not, and then people see these and take them as if that's really who they are, and they get depressed and feel even more disconnected. The ones following them on Instagram or talking to them on Facebook and are, oh, look at that family, they're so nice, why don't I have that family? Well, maybe they don't even really have that family, and they're at home, throwing pillows at each other and screaming. But the picture shows them in well-dressed clothes and with their kids behaving, and that's the image. It's an archontic device. It's an image. It's not real. So you have our culture being pushed down a line of communication through dialogue that is depleted and has non-existent forms of energetic interaction, and is leading to enormous levels of depression. I think this is by design. I think that this is an archontic, deliberately engineered archontic form of interaction, along with the food, along with everything we typically take for granted in this world. There are many benefits to technology, but there are enormous psychological repercussions for a lot of them, and all that I can figure is that they are greatly aiding this archontic agenda to turn us into them. They are synthetic AI energy parasites that are emotionless and don't experience that. They're incapable of it, and thus they want us to be like them. They're jealous. And it's been working. Sadly, it's been working a lot. How many people do you see going around like zombified on their phone, looking at Instagram all day and typing to Facebook, and then they go home and they have absolutely no friends actually at all, and only communicate to the internet. Even if you have one good friend, it's better than 2,000 fake Facebook friends any day. So you have this archontic world paradigm, and I'm not going to go into all the different other layers, but that's a good example of what I'm talking about, of turning human interaction into inhuman, computerized like interaction, robotic like, and it's deliberate. Now, to go further, and I know this is going to be a controversial idea, John Linus has stated, as the great Gnostic seer that he is, mystic, that the great inception point into the human mind was the Abrahamic religion and the Redeemer complex. I'm going to add something to that. I want to add in the idea that, maybe even further back, you have the inception of the authority complex. Because, simply put, the word Archon is Greek, and it means authority or ruler. Thus, the inception would be the idea that humanity requires rulers and authorities in its hierarchical structure, and creating it actually a hierarchical structure at all, to coexist in a civilized state on this planet. Well, this flies completely in the face of natural law and the idea of human sovereignty. The idea that anyone can have authority over anyone else may actually be the greatest lie the Archons have ever conceived and pushed into our mind. Now, it does tie in with the Redeemer complex and the Abrahamic religions, because they look to God, Yahweh, Yaldabaoth, as an authority. They look to the priests as authorities. But at an even more deeper level, the idea that authorities even need to exist at all to control the masses or to keep people in line flies in the face of the concept inherent to everyone in natural law, and which is self-ownership and human sovereignty. that we exist with the inherent degree of freedom to engage on our own sovereignly without any need of anyone to rule over anyone else, and that we could actually organize ourselves in such a fashion voluntarily, it's called voluntarism, that we would have no need for rulers. There would still be structures to the system, but not hierarchical structures. There would still be organization, but not authoritarian organization. There would still be a lot of society would basically stay the same in certain ways, though most people wouldn't be able to easily imagine it. And it would unleash a level of ingenuity and productivity to make up for the removal of that authoritarian, authority complex system, to make up for it. And thus, we would no longer be able to rely, as the lazy individuals we typically are in America, on the authorities to take care of it. Oh no, we would then have to take care of it ourselves. And what level of productivity would that unleash if we knew that? I think the idea of needing authorities or having a belief, because it's a religion, in authority, is the greatest archontic deception of absolutely all time. And it even ties in with the translation of their very name, which means authority. The idea is so philosophically unsound to state that a group of people can get together who have no right to rule anyone else and say that they don't, but then draft on a piece of a tree written letters which declare and claim that they are transferring a right that they don't have, the right of authority, over to a group of strangers to empower them to rule over themselves and all the other strangers that they don't know in their region. And that this is somehow actually a legitimate process, that you can give away your non-existent right to rule to someone else that can then use your non-existent right to rule over others and keep society in order. This is not real. This actually is the most archontic thing I've ever discovered in all of my studies. The idea that someone can give the right to rule to someone when they don't have it. Doesn't matter if billions try to do this. It can't happen. You can claim that it happened. And I'm utterly convinced that this authority complex in the mind is what has kept us as a species from advancing into a true egalitarian and equal society, where there's no higher or upper class. There will be people with greater ability. There will be people that get greater means, but it won't be because they have authority over you. They may have more ability, and you won't have anyone that's immune to the repercussions of breaking sovereignty, which we pretty much have now on an everyday basis through the governments, through law enforcement, and everything else that they've erected around the whole concept of government. They're essentially have sovereign immunity. They even admitted it today, or yesterday, that governments and state governments have king's sovereignty, sovereign immunity, and cannot be dealt with in case of damages. I don't see how they could even conceive of that they have this right at all, but they claim that they do, and if we allow them to claim it, they will de facto have it. And this is the essence of the archontic system: pseudo-control, pseudo-philosophy, pseudo-lifestyles, and turning us into robotic sheep, to where we just do as we're told, because we were believed to do as we're told, and we're brought up to do as we're told, and are not taught how to take personal self-ownership and personal sovereignty to the next level. I want to get more into this. I don't want to go too far. This is a long topic. And thank you for watching. This is Sam Robinson, the Gnostic Syncretist, signing out.